How's it going, guys? My name is Jared Ace, and welcome back to MoneyMetEish. This week has been rough, right? It's been a rough last week. Both Mrs. Meteish and I were extremely sick. I didn't have a voice last weekend, which is why we didn't have a video. My voice is still not 100%, so if it cracks or disappears in this video, I'm sorry. Please just bear with me. I am getting better. But we have some really big news today, and you'll hear it at the end of the video. So please stay tuned and watch through to the end. In today's video, we're going to be having a look at the 3 best ETFs for a beginner to buy into in their ZAR or tax-free savings accounts on EasyEquities. But before we get started, please remember, as always, that my videos are meant for edutainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for any investment decisions, as I am not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, and this is a blank cup. Blank cups. Put your logo on my cup. For more information about blank cups and how to work with MoneyMetEish, contact us via email at moneymeteish@gmail.com. Please also remember to hit the like button and subscribe down below to be notified whenever we upload new videos. Thousands of individual stocks, ETFs, ETNs, and many other financial products available to invest in, it is extremely intimidating for beginners just to take that first step to start investing. When you are just starting your investment journey, it is extremely overwhelming, and it often feels like there is so much more to know than you could ever possibly know, and that's because there is. Not knowing what you're doing and not knowing where to start can be extremely intimidating, and it often leads to people thinking that they can't do this, I don't know how to invest, it's too difficult, when in actual fact it can be really simple to do in the beginning. And that is where I think ETFs are perfect for beginners. ETFs are a great way to get exposure to the market and have your money start to work for you without you needing to spend hours researching individual stocks. It also allows you to have your money work for you while you are learning the ins and outs of investing. You can put your investments in ETFs on autopilot and still outperform most fund managers while you are still learning. And that's even if you really want to learn. If you just want to invest in ETFs and not think about them, put your money in the market every month, you can do that too, and you will probably beat most fund managers. If you just want to put your money in an ETF every month and not worry about it, you can do that. ETFs are also a lot less risky than buying individual companies because you're buying small pieces of individual companies, also known as diversification. Diversification just means that you don't have all your eggs in one basket. You also don't have to worry about choosing which companies will perform the best over time, since the specific ETF's criteria will choose those companies for you. For example, the top 5 companies that make up the S&P 500 today are not the top 5 companies that made up the S&P 500 from 20 years ago. And in fact, only one of the top 5 companies from the year 2000 is still even in the top 10, and that's Microsoft. You don't need to know or guess who the winners will be. The market will pick for you. There are over 80 ETFs on the JSE and over 2,000 in the USA, with more being launched all the time. But today I am going to share with you the 3 best ETFs you can buy in your ZAR or in your tax-free savings accounts on EasyEquities. I made a whole video about how to choose ETFs, and you can watch that over here. But just for a recap, when choosing ETFs, there are 3 important things to consider. That is, number 1, what the ETF is investing in, number 2, what the performance is like, and number 3, this is the most important of all, how much it costs. And when we're saying how much it costs, we're not talking about the rand amount share price that you see. We are speaking about how much it costs you to own that ETF. And we look at something called a total expense ratio, or TER. A TER is basically how much it costs that company to run and manage and operate their ETF. And those are amounts of money that the ETF provider is charging you, whether you're making money or not. So let's get into the 3 best ETFs, in my opinion, for beginner investors, starting with the Core Shares Total World ETF. The ETF is the least risky of the 3 that I will speak about today, and it is the most diversified since it invests in 9,000 companies. It also means, however, that with it being the most diversified, that you are probably going to be getting the lowest growth, since one company doing well is not going to have the same impact against 9,000 as it would against, say, 500 or even 50 different companies. So your performance is going to most likely be a little bit muted, but what I like about this ETF is you are investing in the entire world's economy. If things go well for the world, then things go well for you. So let's have a look at the Core Shares Total World ETF and ask our 3 questions. Question number 1, what does the ETF invest in? And the Core Shares Total World ETF invests in over 9,000 companies from all over the world. If we look at the top 10 holdings, they are Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google twice, because Google has A and C class shares, and they invest in both, Tesla, Meta Platforms, or used to be Facebook, Nvidia, Berkshire Hathaway, and Johnson & Johnson. The top 10 countries which are invested in this ETF are the USA, Japan, the UK, Canada, China, France, Switzerland, Australia, Germany, and Taiwan. Looking at question number 2, the performance. If we look at the performance of the ETF over 1 year, it's grown 1.25%, which doesn't seem like much, but remember, we are investing in the whole world, and the world has been through a lot just this year. And if we look at the ETF year to date, which is from the 1st of January until today, it is down minus 14.8%. Once again, 2022 has been rough for the world. So we are still very happy owning this ETF, even though the performance has not been amazing. It's really something that you can just buy and forget about. If we look at the expense, or the TER, remember that is the cost of managing and running the ETF, we will always be looking to have a TER of under 0.5%. We're never happy paying more than 0.5%. There are some high growth funds or more specialized ETFs, and they often have higher TERs, but they need to then outperform the general market and their higher cost just to sort of justify their existence. The ARK Innovation Fund, for example, has a TER of 0.75% and has returned an astonishing minus 52% for their flagship fund. Super high innovation growth this year. Coming back to our ETF we are actually having a look at, the Core Shares Total World, it has a total expense ratio of only 0.29, which is really well within that 0.5% limit, and is actually the most expensive of all of the ETFs we are going to have a look at today. So we started looking at the most diversified of the 3 ETFs, the one that I think everyone should own at least a little bit of in their tax-free savings accounts. Now we're going to go a little bit more specialized, a little bit more specific. We're going to look at my personal favorite ETF, and that is the Signia S&P 500. The S&P 500 is the 500 largest market cap companies registered in the United States, and we did a whole piece on the S&P 500 when we looked at each of our tax-free savings accounts investments. This is my favorite ETF because the companies have to, apart from being American, they have to be profitable for at least 4 quarters and the most recent quarter. These are really large companies that we're dealing with. Now, there are some misconceptions about the S&P 500, and people will often criticize it, saying, "You're only investing in America. This isn't well diversified. America, wah." But in actual fact, all of these companies have huge global supply and sales networks, and the biggest companies in the S&P 500 are actually mostly the same as in the core shares total world, but these are the largest companies with global reach. I mean, tell me the last time you wanted to search something and you didn't use Google. These are the largest companies in the world, and these are the largest companies in this ETF. Now, the top 10 holdings are basically exactly the same as the core shares holding, except that core shares has Johnson & Johnson, and that is replaced in the S&P 500 by JP Morgan, which is an American bank. Now let's have a look at our three questions. As for what and where this ETF invests, it invests in the USA and is often seen as a proxy for the total US economy. If we look at the performance over 1 year, it has done 8.84%, which is around the average annual performance you can expect from the S&P 500. However, if we look year to date, once again, the world's been through a lot, and it is down 13.95, let's say 14%, from the beginning of the year to today. The total expense ratio on this Signia ETF is by far the lowest of any other S&P 500 ETF you will find on the JSE at only 0.19%. So not only is that really cheap, it's also well below that 0.5 limit. The core shares total world and the Signia S&P 500 make up the spine, the backbone of our tax-free savings account in the MoneyMetEish EasyEquities portfolio. I feel like the two of them together give us very good diversification, and it also allows us not to really worry too much, because if the world does well, we do well too. We think the world is going to do alright over the long term. So, those are the two ETFs so far. The third and final ETF that I think is perfect for a beginner, especially a South African beginner, is the Satrix 40. These are the 40 largest market cap companies on the JSE, and all of your really huge companies that you can think of in South Africa are there. You've got your Shoprite, you've got your Anglo, you've got your Naspers, you've got Discovery. All of the biggest South African companies are in this ETF, so if you buy it, you're buying a small piece of each of these companies. A large portion of these companies have earnings outside of South Africa, so you're really not super reliant on the South African economy, because although these companies are registered in South Africa, a large portion of the earnings come from outside the country. If we look at our three questions, number one, where and what does it invest in? This ETF invests in the 40 largest market cap companies listed on the JSE in South Africa. If we look at question number two, the performance over 1 year has been a 6.86% gain, while year to date it is up barely, but still up 0.09%. The total expense ratio for this ETF is possibly one of the biggest reasons to buy the Satrix 40, and that is because the total expense ratio, or the TER, is just 0.1% for this ETF. So those are the three ETFs that I think are the absolute best ETFs for a beginner to buy in their tax-free savings or ZAR accounts on EasyEquities. Let us know in the comment section down below if you own any of the ETFs we spoke about today, and what your favorite ETFs are and why. If for some reason you don't like ETFs, let us know why not in the comment section down below. In the beginning of the video, I said that we had some news, and here it is. A few weeks ago, I suggested that Easy Properties and Orbvest come together to make investing in medical real estate far more accessible for the average South African. And although we haven't had much news on the progress of that yet, Orbvest was really happy with the video that we made explaining what they do and why I think it would be a good idea. And so they got in touch with us, and MoneyMetEish is now officially an Orbvest affiliate. There will be a link in the description down below, and if you go and fill in your name and your email address, someone from Orbvest will get in touch with you to set up a time and date to discuss the full range of Orbvest products. This is at absolutely no extra charge to you from following the link down below, but of course I would really greatly appreciate it if you do. So, That's it for us today, guys. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment and subscribe down below, and check out the Orbvest link. You can also follow MoneyMetEish on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere where MoneyMetEishes are, as well as on the FinMeUp app, which is launching on Tuesday. We are a mentor, so you can see all the stuff that we will be producing, some of it very exclusive, for the FinMeUp app. Thanks again, and happy investing.